Hey everyone, I am so excited to introduce you to a good friend of mine and give you the story behind our song, This Is the Sound. Jed is the pastor to young adults and families at Sunridge Community Church, worship leader extraordinaire, and a vital part of my little songwriting team. Not only did Jed write This Is the Sound, but he also helped write and arrange my songs, You Have Me and Victorious. He also did some killer background vocals and helped on my pre-production team for the album. Jed has been a huge help throughout the whole process of getting this album together, and I'm really excited for you guys to hear his heart behind this song. And I also have a really exciting announcement at the end, so make sure you listen all the way to the end. All right, Jed, so what's the story behind This Is the Sound?
Gosh, it's been several years. I wrote what now is called This Is the Sound actually in 2010. It was called You Are Here at the time. That would have been, I would have been like 20 years old in college. I was studying youth and family ministry, but was actually vocationally going to become a worship pastor. That's what I wanted to do, and that's where I was going. So I was learning a lot about worship and what that meant. I can remember there being this catchphrase that worship leaders used to use all the time. I'm glad it's phased out, where worship leaders would say, worship God with everything. And it's just a really diluted statement. I had a professor that talked about how if something is everything, then it's nothing. And so it's really journeying and processing through what it means to worship and how it really is a conscientious response to all that God has done in and through Christ and the work that He's doing in our lives today through the Holy Spirit. And so This Is the Sound, when it was called You Are Here, was about that. God, if you are here, where do we see that? And in worship, part of the role for us to sing and the power of lyric is, we're processing stuff as we sing. And so when we're singing those words, you're calling the lost home, or you're making the weak strong, or you shelter the homeless, it's easy to look around and go, are you actually doing that, God? And so when we sing those words, it causes us to really ask ourselves, how does God do that? If He's here with us, how does He do that? And so when Curly, Michael, your husband, asked me to help with the album, and I brought You Are Here to the board, I just thought I've got to rework it a little bit, because again, I was 20 when I wrote it, and the song sounded really different. And so none of the verses changed, but the chorus changed, and then the song changed. And so the irony of the song is that the chorus is, this is the sound of our hearts crying out. But the reason why I wrote that, in light of what worship is and what happens when we worship through song, I was thinking about Amos, the prophet. And in chapter 5, he goes into delivering this word that God is speaking to him, and it's basically saying, I disdain, I hate your sacred assemblies, your festivals, because you're putting on a show for me. And in verse 23, he says, take away from me the noise of your songs. I don't want to listen to the melody of your harp, but let justice roll down like water, and let righteousness flow like an everlasting stream. And so in thinking about Amos's words, or God's words through Amos, and just the whole of this song, it's like, when we sing This Is the Sound, it's supposed to counter us just singing it. In other words, if we hear that God shelters the homeless, how does He do that? Well, He does it through His people. So if I really want to say, this is the sound of my heart crying out, when I am not in this building or in this space when I'm singing, I conscientiously want to be responding to the redemptive work God has done in my life. And so that makes me, hopefully, attentive to the people around me. What's fascinating is it really gets back to, in 2010, when I was writing the song for the first time, that line even, you shelter the homeless, I was watching some of my best friends, Ty and Huey and Trevor, guys that were in my wedding and I went to school with, as we were all trying to work through what it meant for God to be here with us and what worship looked like, they started going down this Skid Row. They had a few years beforehand, I think in 2007 or 2008 is when they started going. And they just started bringing their presence, God's presence with them, through them to the people of Skid Row. And so you had a bunch of white teenage guys hanging out down there. And again, to me, that epitomizes what this is supposed to be. It's like if we say, God, you're here, or now in this version, this is the sound of our hearts crying out, then it's empty if we just sing. Something has to happen, something has to change. Evidence has to be there, fruit has to be found. That's how God works. In 2 Corinthians 5, when Paul talks about the ministry of reconciliation, he says that we're Christ's ambassadors, as though God were making his appeal through us. In verse 1 of chapter 6, he says, as God's co-workers, we urge you to not take the grace of God in vain. So I know it's like a lot of rambling and musing, but that is this song. So it changed a ton. Hopefully it's a little bit more significant now that it's several years rewritten, but yeah, the verses stayed the same, the chorus changed, and then the bridge, sing out a new song to our God, remember all that he has done, declare his faithfulness and steadfast love. Again, isn't just that we can sing that and say, God, thank you for your faithfulness and all that you've done for us. It's, God, if we really believe that's true and we're singing that to you right now, when we are done singing and worshiping with you within the framework of lyric and song, we're going to trust that your Holy Spirit's going to lead us, and we're going to be attentive to where you're leading us and how we follow you and how we'll be your ambassadors to this world and be a part of your kingdom altogether. So that's the song.
Awesome. Thank you. So in light of the heart behind the song and what we know of the heart of God, it's my heart's desire to see hope and restoration brought to those that are broken and mistreated. I wanted to do something with this album that I wouldn't have been able to do otherwise. Because of that, I want to let you all know that a portion of every physical copy of the album sold will go directly to 2 ministries that are near and dear to my heart. The first that we'll be donating half of the percentage to is A21 Ministries, in an effort to do my part to help end human trafficking in our country and around the world. They are literally on the ground helping to educate and rescue people out of slavery every day, and we can do our part to help them accomplish that. If you haven't taken an honest look at the sheer numbers of people here and around the world that are being enslaved, then I would encourage you to be brave and go find out more. It's truly heartbreaking and completely avoidable. The second ministry is World Vision. The other half of the percentage will be going to the team at Sunridge that is running the LA Marathon and Half Marathon. 100% of the money raised for the race is going directly to World Vision's mission to bring clean drinking water to villages in Africa that don't have clean water. That alone makes World Vision worth supporting, but there is more to this story. The number one source of human trafficking in the world is the walk that primarily women and girls are taking to get water and bring it back to their villages. They do these long walks 3 times a day, and each time they're left vulnerable to traffickers. By bringing wells of clean water within a kilometer of each home in each village, World Vision is helping to not only end the diseases and death that come from not having any clean drinking water, but also helping to lessen the chances the traffickers have to take these girls. I hope that this encourages you to find new ways throughout the holiday season and the rest of the year that you can be the hands and feet of Jesus and meet the physical, spiritual, and emotional needs of those around us and throughout the world. Thank you.